Hi, I'm Laura, and this is part of a series of videos that will help you put on a Shakespearean play. It's part of my Girl Scout Gold Award project, Spreading Shakespeare. See the description below for a link to the introductory video. So I'm going to talk about directing, and I don't have a script planned, so it's going to be a little all over the place, and I apologize in advance. I've been directing small summer shows for the past 3 years, and this year I got to student intern direct at the high school. So I've had a little bit of experience with directing, and I can give you some pointers, but a lot of it is you have to figure it out from your own experience in theater. Most of what I learned was from seeing other shows, from being in shows and acting in them, and watching my own director do things. So with a Shakespearean play, very important things are sightlines. On a stage that's the regular kind of stage you'll see in a high school auditorium, the sightlines go in a diagonal toward the middle on the horizon, so it's like a giant triangle arrow type thing. You don't want to put people behind these sightlines because then people on one side won't be able to see them from the audience. You want to make sure everyone can be seen at all times by everyone. That way, if there's something happening that's funny and one side of the audience sees it and laughs, the other side of the audience isn't confused about what's going on. For entering and exiting, stage right is the audience's left. And oftentimes it's good to have them enter from that side because it's like a storybook and people read from left to right. So you see them come on from the left and they might exit through the right, they might exit through the left, whichever. But that way it works in the audience's head somehow. So that might be worthwhile for some of your scenes. Next, blocking is very important. When you have multiple characters on stage, you want to make sure that the important people are emphasized in some way. You want to have them at the center of another arrow or a semicircle, or on the end stepped out to the side so they look more important, or even in the middle of a semicircle. Somewhere, emphasize where they're very important so the audience knows where to look, and they're not looking at the ensemble people and wondering what's going on with them. Speaking of ensemble, it is very good to have ensemble members doing things in the background. For example, in Twelfth Night, there's a scene near the docks, near the ocean, and only 2 characters speak the whole scene. But it's kind of boring and awkward if they're the only ones there. So we had it be a marketplace setting, and the ensemble came in the back and looked like they were selling necklaces and selling food and other things. And people just walked in and out, looked at things, pretended like they were talking, and had their own thing going in the background. Very important for ensemble members, though, don't draw attention to them. You don't want them to look like they're having a grand time and they're jumping all around and they're falling over, because then the audience looks at them and doesn't look at the people who they should be looking at, who are talking and saying their lines. Another thing that's important is you want to have different levels during a scene. You don't want everyone standing next to each other, everyone sitting, everyone doing one thing, because that's very boring. Especially in a kind of tableau scene where they're not moving as much, you want to have different levels. So some people can be standing or pacing, some people sitting down, some people leaning on a chair. Do something so that they're at different levels, and it's interesting for the audience to look at. One part of directing that you do is, besides the staging, besides the interpreting of the lines, is other things that aren't necessarily written in the script, little funny things that go on. For example, in Twelfth Night, Malvolio is the character that they make fun of, and he's usually sad, but in this scene he is wearing yellow stockings and thinks he's about to fall in love with someone. So I have him skip on and do a little jig, and then he displays his awesome yellow tights on a bench, and it's a little bit sexy going on, ooh. So that's not written in the script. It's not necessarily blocking because it's not different from where he's standing, but it is another thing that you can direct. You can always give him the opportunity to act it out first and see if he has any good original ideas, but then add in your own later if that's okay. Another scene was Olivia takes off her ring to give to someone, but she's pretending that it was actually given to her. So what I had her do was really work with the ring, pretend like it's stuck on her finger and pull it off. That's not blocking because she's still in her spot, and it's not interpreting a line because she's not saying anything, but it's an action that she does where she pulls off the ring. And whenever you have them do these acting things, you really want to make everything exaggerated. We'll talk about that more in another acting video, but the audience might have trouble seeing or understanding small actions that they can't see, so you want to make everything exaggerated and obnoxious. Even sometimes with the acting, because for Shakespeare's language, if you deliver it as they would have delivered it, we're not going to get it, because it's not our language. It's early modern English instead of the later modern English that we use today. An important thing to remember while you're staging and blocking things is not to have people in the same spot for too long, because then it gets really boring to watch. So you want to have ideas of how you want them to move around the stage, so clearly keep in mind how much space you have, how many actors you have filling the stage, and then do something interesting with it. But then again, don't have them moving the entire time, because then we can't focus on a certain person. So find a nice balance of how things work. Directors help the actors figure out their blocking and their staging throughout the show, and help them understand things and interpret the lines they don't understand. But you don't tell them exactly what to do. I had trouble with that because I have a perfect vision in my head, I think. So when I talk to the actors, sometimes I would say too much. Like, I want you to say this word exactly this way and move exactly this way. And that cuts out the opportunity for originality. When I didn't do that, then the actors delivered a line or moved in a certain way that I thought, wow, that's a really great idea. I didn't even think of that. I'm glad they did that. So if I just tell them exactly what to do, they never would have done that, and it might have been better. So you want to be careful how much you direct. As the director, you're in charge of your cast harmony. So you want to make sure that everyone in your cast is happy with each other, they're comfortable being around each other. If they have to interact, then they're okay with that. So some good ideas are cast bonding sessions. You can maybe watch a filmed or recorded version of the play you're doing. You could go out and see a play together. We went to Boston on the Common, their Commonwealth Shakespeare's Coriolanus, and we bonded over that. It was really fun. Just do something interesting that you can get everyone together. They might not know each other, so they can get to know each other and be comfortable. I know in one of our scenes, we had to have someone touching the other person's hair and making fun of it, and they didn't know each other well at first, so it was kind of awkward, but by the end they were okay, and the acting looked more comfortable, like it should be, because they're best friends in the play. A big part of directing is the artistic vision for the show. You're in charge of overseeing the set, the costumes, the lighting, everything that goes on artistically with the show. So you should have a general vision in mind, general idea. You can come up with ideas by looking in other playbooks, other pictures from other books that show previous sets, or you can look online for other sets, or you can see the play somewhere, or even if there's a movie version. I used a lot from the movie version of Twelfth Night because I liked what they did with it. And though it was set in a different time period than Shakespeare's time, I liked the color schemes that they had. For example, Olivia's house had a blue theme going on, and her costume was also blue when she was happy, and all the stones outside were blue, things in the garden were blue, and anyone who was her servant had some sort of blue on them. So that way everyone in the audience could identify them as a unit, say Olivia's house. Same with the Duke Orsino. Since he was a royal character, we had a lot of royal purple and gold going on. So everything in the palace, there was gold and purple everywhere. Even the lighting on the backdrop had this purplish tint to it. And all the costumes of the servants that served the Duke were all purple too. Also, as director, you oversee the technical aspects of the show. So you'll be overall in charge of every crew that goes on. So the costume crew, the run crew who moves sets, the stage managers who organize everything backstage, the props crew, the lighting crew, the sound crew. You're in charge, you're the head of all of that. You don't do it all yourself, which for some people is hard. I know I'm that obnoxious kind of person that does everything herself, so I worked really hard to delegate tasks to people and know this is their job, they know what they're doing, and they're going to handle it. So overall, you should have either technical interviews if you're doing it with a large group of people, like making wider connections in the community. You should have tech interviews, so they come in, they say, oh, I'd like to be on sound crew, and you say something like, oh, why would you like to be on sound crew? What's your experience? Tell me a little bit about yourself and why I should take you. And just talk with them for like less than 5 minutes. And then if you then assign them a role. And if you have too many people, then just try to do it by this person needs more experience and maybe this is a good opportunity for them, or this person has experience and I'd like to have them because we're crunched for time. Or if you don't have enough people, then have them advertise to their friends, I guess, and come in. We had that problem. We had 2 people come the night of the show who didn't ever work on it before. But it was okay. They were in charge of just one piece of set to move and put it in one place. So you can always do that if you don't have enough people. Say, we would love to have you on something simple the night of the show or even the week of the show. So that way you can get in more people who are not worried about, oh, I don't have time over the summer to do it all the time or during the school year. So you generally will have a meeting with them, oversee things, tell them your basic vision for this show, like you would tell the lighting and the set and the costume crews your artistic vision that's going on, what colors you want things to be. And then let them free. Let them go and do their thing. It also would help to have delegated people in charge. So the stage managers oversee the props, run crew, fly crew, if you have a fly crew. Fly crew is the people who raise and lower the fly bars that have things hanging from them in certain auditoriums. You would have someone you can trust and has had experience in that important position. Same with the technical director, which is your right-hand man who's right under you, who's going to be in charge of all the tech under you. So they do the same exact thing you would, but you delegate most of the tasks to the tech director once you've finished. This is what we use at our high school. In professional theater, I think it's different. They have the stage manager is the tech director, and then there are assistant stage managers or something like that who are backstage overseeing the props, fly, run crew, and things like that. A very important thing whenever you're directing, you want to be kind and polite at all times. Even if people aren't doing what you've said after the 10th time, you want to be very polite and cordial and not get mad at them, because as soon as you get mad at people like your friends or high school kids that you'll be working with, they get sassy. And they don't want to listen to someone their own age. They don't want to be ordered around when they think they're in the right. And especially if you start yelling, they might feel bad, and you don't want that to happen. So even if they still haven't moved up stage after the 10th time, you say, remember how I said to move up stage? Could you please do that this time? Write that down in your script so next time you'll remember that. Thank you. And then don't make a big deal out of it. Just move on. Pretend like it didn't happen. And that way you don't cause fuss. Thank you, and I hope you find these videos useful.